Hey, what's up? I'm Justin Baldoni, and today we are in my home, but we're actually moving tomorrow, so it's only my home for one more day. As you can see, we have boxes.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Good Friday on April 3rd, 2026. Here's your rush hour update. Today's coverage is a single, all-in-one episode instead of the usual split format because of a major legal development involving Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. In a significant court ruling yesterday, Baldoni secured a major victory as the judge dismissed 10 out of the 13 claims Lively had brought against him, including allegations of harassment, defamation, and conspiracy, while some on Lively's side argue this outcome was due to technicalities. The judge made it clear that the dismissed claims lacked sufficient basis or evidence. However, 3 claims related to breach of contract and retaliation will still proceed to trial, though their success remains uncertain. This case stems from allegations made about a year and a half ago during the fallout surrounding the film It Ends With Us, where Lively accused Baldoni of misconduct on set and claimed there was a coordinated smear campaign, even alleging involvement with media outlets like the New York Times. Baldoni has consistently denied these accusations, calling them baseless, and the judge's partial agreement with his defense marks a turning point in the case. Major media outlets including Fox News, CNN, and USA Today are largely framing this as a strong win for Baldoni, adding pressure on Lively's public image. While her legal team is expected to respond and defend the remaining claims, the current momentum clearly favors Baldoni. His decision to fight back, reportedly supported by financier Steve Sirowitz, highlights the resources often required to challenge high-profile accusations. Although this ruling doesn't fully end the case, it significantly weakens Lively's position and reinforces the importance of both legal outcomes and public perception in such disputes, as reputations are shaped not just in courtrooms, but also in the court of public opinion. This portion of the ruling makes it clear that both the federal and state harassment claims brought by Blake Lively failed to survive the motions filed by Justin Baldoni and the other defendants, meaning the court found they did not meet the legal standards required to proceed. While some voices from Lively's side continued to argue that the outcome is the result of technicalities, pointing to issues like jurisdiction, the fact that filming took place in New Jersey rather than California, and her classification as an independent contractor, the judge's extensive 152-page order suggests a much deeper evaluation of the claims. The court didn't simply dismiss the case on procedural grounds. Instead, it went allegation by allegation, analyzing each incident in detail and concluding that several of them did not rise to the level of actionable hostile workplace harassment under the law. In fact, the judge emphasized that certain events occurred before Lively had even begun working on the film It Ends With Us, making it legally impossible for those incidents to contribute to a hostile work environment claim. Beyond timing, the judge also addressed the nature of the interactions themselves, explaining that some of the disputed behaviors, such as discussions involving mature or explicit content or proposed edits to the script, fell within the reasonable scope of creative collaboration in filmmaking, even if one party found them uncomfortable or inappropriate. The ruling further examined claims that Baldoni's actions reflected gender-based discrimination, including the controversial issue of inquiries about Lively's physical condition for certain scenes. Here, the judge found that the available evidence did not support the interpretation that these actions were motivated by bias or hostility toward her as a woman, but rather could be viewed in the context of production requirements and practical considerations tied to the role. Overall, the court's reasoning indicates that the dismissal was not merely a matter of legal loopholes but a substantive determination that the claims, as presented, lacked sufficient evidence or legal grounding. Still, the narrative remains contested, with supporters of Lively maintaining that the outcome does not fully reflect the merits of her allegations. With some claims still moving forward to trial, the case is far from over, but this ruling significantly narrows its scope and shifts the momentum in favor of both legally and in the broader arena of public perception. This part of the ruling further reinforces the court's position that the behavior described by Blake Lively does not legally qualify as sexual harassment by Justin Baldoni. The judge explained that even if Baldoni was improvising during a scene such as a slow dance moment involving physical closeness or romantic gestures, the conduct was still within the of what could reasonably be expected between two characters in that context. Because of that, it could not automatically be interpreted as hostile or discriminatory behavior based on gender. Importantly, the court emphasized that such actions, when viewed in isolation, were directed toward the fictional characters rather than Lively as an individual, which weakens the argument that they constituted personal harassment. The ruling went even further by highlighting the importance of creative freedom in filmmaking, noting that actors, writers, and directors must have room to experiment within the boundaries of an agreed script without the constant fear of legal liability. The judge essentially drew a line between inappropriate real-world conduct and creative performance decisions, acknowledging that while boundaries are important, especially with the increasing use of intimacy coordinators in modern productions, not every uncomfortable or disputed moment on set rises to the level of a legal violation. In this case, the court found no strong evidence that Baldoni's on-camera actions were exploitative or abusive in the way Lively's claims suggested. Additionally, the judge dismissed attempts to connect unrelated incidents to the broader harassment narrative. For example, references to personal text messages about family life or behavior in pre-production meetings were found to have no meaningful link to the alleged misconduct on set. The court made it clear that these kinds of details do not establish a pattern of harassment and lack the necessary connection to the core legal claims. The ruling also pointed out that many of these incidents failed to establish a sufficient legal connection to California, which was required for certain claims to proceed under state law. Overall, this section of the decision underscores that the dismissal was based on a detailed evaluation of both context and evidence, not just procedural grounds. The judge repeatedly found that the alleged actions either fell within reasonable professional and creative boundaries or lacked the legal and factual connection needed to support claims of harassment or discrimination. While debate continues among supporters on both sides, the court's analysis significantly narrows the scope of the case and strengthens Baldoni's position moving forward. In this extended segment, the discussion shifts from global politics back to the legal battle involving Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, while also weaving in broader commentary about media, public perception, and current events. The speaker highlights growing criticism of Donald Trump from figures like Joe Rogan and Theo Von, suggesting a shift in tone among some of his former supporters, particularly regarding escalating geopolitical tensions involving countries like Iran and Lebanon. The commentary reflects concern over retaliatory actions, economic consequences such as disruptions in oil supply routes like the Strait of Hormuz, and the broader impact of conflict on global stability and everyday life. The speaker also criticizes political messaging from figures like Caroline Leavitt, questioning the portrayal of leadership and decision, while emphasizing the importance of historical awareness in matters of war. At the same time, the narrative touches briefly on a separate incident involving Tiger Woods, referencing reported body cam footage and raising concerns about personal responsibility and safety. Returning to the central legal case, the focus is on the judge's analysis of retaliation claims. The court determined that many of Lively's complaints were not legally actionable and affirmed that Baldoni and his associates had the right to defend themselves publicly, including through public relations strategies. This included promoting favorable media coverage and challenging Lively's credibility actions. The court did not consider unlawful retaliation. The judge also stated that individuals accused of misconduct are allowed to respond through representatives or media channels, and that presenting counter-evidence or alternative narratives is part of legitimate not necessarily a coordinated smear campaign. Statements from Baldoni's legal team welcomed the dismissal of the majority of claims, emphasizing the seriousness of the allegations and expressing confidence in the remaining case. Meanwhile, Lively's attorney maintained that the core issue moving forward is retaliation, arguing that she faced significant reputational harm for speaking out and that this aspect will be central at trial. Despite the dismissal of the sexual harassment claims, her team insists this does not equate to wrongdoing being disproven, but rather reflects legal limitations tied to her employment status. Ultimately, the case has been significantly narrowed, with 10 of the 13 claims dismissed, shifting the legal and public momentum toward Baldoni. However, the remaining claims ensure the dispute is far from over, and both sides are preparing for a continued legal battle. The broader takeaway from this segment is the intersection of law, media, and public opinion, where narratives are shaped not only by court rulings but also by how events are framed, discussed, and understood by audiences following the case.